people together when you win a big race like that. You're kind of like real friends for life.
Tied.
Yeah, totally tied, yeah.
Yeah, and Charlie Robertson, when do you see yourself coming back to Le Mans?
Hopefully soon.
As possible.
Yeah, as soon as possible. I mean, obviously a big few years ahead in terms of the manufacturers coming back into Le Mans, and I think sports car racing is going to really hit an upwards trajectory. So, you know, if I can ride that wave and be on it and be part of it, that would be the ultimate goal for me. So, although I do like the commentating, Mark, but I would rather be behind the wheel.
I'm pretty sure you would.
I mean, your Ginetta years, you know, we all were looking so forward to Ginetta challenging for the main race. You know, Lawrence Tomlinson's been a friend for many, many years, and all the work he'd done to get to Le Mans, and just such a shame that didn't really all gel. But there will be more opportunities, won't there?
Yeah, I mean, that car, the LMP1 car, when we raced it in 2019-20, I mean, it's a stunning car. And myself, Mike Simpson, who is my teammate at Ginetta, we spent a lot of time working on that car, and we think we just about cracked it. And the pace that we were showing around Shanghai, Fuji, setting fastest laps, starting on the front row of the grid, leading the first hour of Shanghai. I mean, it was almost there. So it was a shame when the pandemic came that the program had to end, but it was a pleasure to be part of it.
Yeah, there's so much we can blame on this COVID, can't we? It really has set everything on its head. This is GTM, by the way, battle going on. The distinctive Northwest Aston Martin there is in the hands of Nicky Tim at the moment, that 98 car, and he is tucked in behind Jeroen Bleekemolen, and right behind him, Mikael Jensen. So great battle for AM this, and they're fighting over 5th place at the moment for AM. Just as hard fought, isn't it, as GT Pro. This has been proving the case, certainly this year in WEC races, because of course they are basically GT Pro cars, aren't they?
Yeah, effectively. I mean, and the level, the caliber of driver racing in GTM is huge. You know, the pros in that series are amongst the fastest drivers on the planet. So it's there's top pedalers throughout the whole grid. So it makes the level extremely high.
Yeah, and that's where the amateur, you know, you have a strong amateur, you're in such a strong position. Absolutely. Because the difference in ability and experience for amateurs is vast, and you get a good combination like that, you would be the one to beat.
Yeah, we got a car slowing, didn't we? Just in the Porsche curves. They came, not Porsche curves, going up the hill. I was coming out of the pits. I thought we were in Porsche curves. Sorry. Take a rain check on that, gentlemen. Car 22 is being investigated for pit stop infringements. We don't know what it is yet, but we will obviously get a message in due course. That 22 car is
a United car? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's the Albuquerque car.
I think Ferdinand de Habsburg's on board, isn't he, at the moment? I suspect that's where the...
It's Albuquerque.
No, Fabio Scherer Philippe on board at the moment, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
His name's so long, they're only showing F on the screen.
No, really.
So, no prospect of rain at the moment. We see, looking at the meter, it's track temperature is warming up slightly. It's almost 25 degrees. The air is almost 20 degrees, and the humidity has dropped from 90 down to 81%.
Tropical.
So we could be in for a dry evening because the wind is also dropping a little bit, and it's no longer coming from the west, which is where it comes from, the Atlantic. That's what brings the rain. So we could be in for a dry night.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
I think that'll be news to the drivers, and they'll be very pleased with that. I mean, when you've got to make those calls on should we go slick, should we go wets, it's such a hard position to be in when you're driving, and you don't want to rush it because you know you're stuck on whichever tyres you've picked for the next hour or so. So a predominantly dry race is definitely music to the ears of the drivers.
Right, this is the Galeo being chased by Albuquerque at the moment in LMP2. This is for 8th place. The D station Aston Martin being gobbled up by this LMP2 battle. 4 more Aston Martins running here this year, despite the fact the factory's pulled out of GT Pro, but John Gow of Aston Martin Racing very much present here, overseeing all 4 cars, which all get assistance from AMR, although of course the Paul Dalla car is run by the factory officially. Again, a team that you've had much to do with, Brabs.
Yeah, no, we had pretty good success, Aston Martin Racing and the guys at ProDrive there. So yeah, it's 2007 and 8 in the DBR9. So yeah, great memories.
Well, we're going to take a break and we're going to have a change of commentators. I'll be leaving for a while. Chris Parsons will be joining you. Jake will be coming back. Charlie will be staying, and Brabs and I will go and take some R&R. So stay with us on Eurosport. See you soon.
Lego Technic sponsors 20.
Take this way in and this way out. Take every opening, every chance. Overtake this one, these two. Take pleasure in the thrill. Take a second. Relax. There are 86,400 for the taking.
When I was young, I wanted to go to space.
Sí, sí, todo bien, pero luego te cuento, ¿vale? Que estoy liada. Venga, hasta luego.
As I got older, my dream inspired the choices I made in my life. But the further I got, the more I started to feel that something was missing. Then I went with some friends and family to Motherland. The excitement was amazing. It became clear to me that what I was missing was there. Now that I'm inside, I have a new dream. At Motherland, I feel part of an incredible community at the heart of the automotive future. Now I know that I don't need to have my head in the stars when I can be part of a team right here with my feet firmly on the ground.
Change is all around us, shaped by technology and human ingenuity. We can make it work for you and your business.
Our world is changing. New challenges and opportunities have fast-tracked the need to do things differently. The FIA is committed to having a positive impact on society, on all our lives, through health and safety, environment, diversity and inclusion, and community development. Make the same commitment. We are all purpose-driven.
Live the rush of the 24 hours of Le Mans with Total Energies.
We approach the third hour as we battle away for position here. It's going to be an absolutely exceptional run in the 2021 Le Mans 24 Hours. Jake Sanson with you, beside me Chris Parsons and Charlie Robertson. Hour 3 is going to be an interesting one, lads. This is where the track is dry and it's slowly starting to get a little bit more like the witching hour.
Everyone just seems to have settled into a bit more of a rhythm now, haven't they? I think they needed it after that opening hour, which was absolute chaos. So I didn't know where to look, really. So yeah, I think they're settling into a bit of a rhythm now, and the race will sort of take shape.
And Chris, you've been watching this very fascinated indeed over the first couple of hours. That first 45 minutes, have you ever seen anything as insane as that in Le Mans? I think he's still just getting himself into position, actually. It's been a very interesting start to Le Mans, to be fair. I mean, we've got everybody talking about it on social media. Even Toyota themselves have said a wet and wild start to the 2021 Le Mans 24.
I mean, they were incredibly lucky to get away with that, really, weren't they?
They were.
That it's one of those impacts that could mean something further down the line of the race. If if that's caused a vibration in the chassis, or, you know, that could pay dividends hour 20, you know, and they could have a failure related back to that contact. So yeah, they're not an ideal start for the 8 car, sorry.
So the GTE Pro Battle, of course, Ferraris 1 and 2, WeatherTech Porsche 3rd place, Corvette running in 4th with the 63 car. It's been a very interesting start to the Le Mans 24 Hours for Corvette, who were 1 and 2 in the early phase. They were actually leading the way at their various points in the first part of the hour. The Works Porsches have had a bit of a mare, it has to be said. They've really struggled to get themselves up into a competitive position. But now that we're into the 3rd hour, in the next 30 seconds or so, it looks like it's starting to settle out and look a bit more normal. Yeah, they seem to be making some progress back through the pack now, really. It's weird, though, because usually the wet weather suits the Porsches.
The Porsche have not had a good week, have they?
No.
They've struggled. They had that accident with Kevin Estre, and who wrote the car off, and they have to replace the whole car, the tub. Yeah, not a very Porsche-like performance.
Well, no, indeed. I mean, we've got to remember that Porsche have been driving in the Le Mans 24 Hours since the late Middle Ages. I mean, this place is very much their home turf nowadays, outside of Stuttgart. And it's a terrible, terrible week by their standards. Yes, they've managed to get the Hub Auto Porsche into first position, but that's not exactly going to make the board of directors feel very comfortable knowing that the WeatherTech car is ahead of them in GTE Pro. And, you know, they've not had a great run of it all week. You're absolutely right, Chris. This is not a Porsche-style performance.
No, but...
So, while we're on the subject of Porsche, let's hear from Julien Andlauer, who has been driving a brilliant race in the GTE AM category, down in the pit lane. We're watching the Jota battle with the United Autosports number 22, which is that battle for 8th position, Sean Gelael and Felipe Albuquerque. Down in pit road with Julien Andlauer.
I'm here with Julien Lourdes out of number 88 Porsche, leading the Pro-Am class here at Le Mans, one of the youngest driver out here. Paul Sider in this GTE AM class. Julien, it seemed easy to see you driving out here, but I'm pretty sure that was not.
Yeah, I would say maybe it looked easy, but it was clearly not. I mean, the first thing with the wet, we couldn't see anything behind the other cars. It was a little bit tricky, but most important is that we stayed out of trouble. The pace was, I think, not too bad because we could follow a little bit the pace of the last pros, and we stayed more or less around the first position of our class. But in the second stint, I think it was the right call, and we entered the pit lane at the right moment to put the slicks on, and the cars felt also great. I mean, since Sunday already, the car is great and continues to be like this, so hopefully it's gonna stay like it is. We are entered, I think, leaders of the class, and hopefully it's gonna stay like it is.
Can you just take us through a little bit those conditions at the start? Because for sure it was wet, but it looks so tricky. Can you explain us why?
I think it was already a good idea to do 2-3 laps on the safety car to see a little bit the tricky paces on track. But I mean, on the surface it looked so slippery. Sometimes you were just entering the corner, everything was all right, and suddenly in the moment you have to just take a snap. So it was a little bit tricky, but the good thing is I could follow a little bit the cars in front of me, so if they were doing mistakes, I was trying to do differently, and at the end we survived, so this is important.
You're still the youngest winner of a class here at Le Mans. You're very young still, but what does it take to win this race?
Well, I was really young, but I mean, it's unbelievable. To be already part of Le Mans is incredible. To be a French in Le Mans is even more incredible, but to win Le Mans for our first time as youngest, etc. I mean, even more in a team like this one and with Porsche.
Thanks a lot, Julien.
Thank you.
Very interesting to hear from Julien Andlauer, who's already had a very interesting day at the office. Slow zones around the circuit. So obviously the Ferraris that are currently battling for the lead, they want to be careful, these two, because obviously they're having inter-team rivalry, which is all good fun and games until two of them decide to clatter into each other, and there's only two of them at the front in GTE Pro, but great to watch. Dan Serra and Alessandro Perguidi swap the lead, and they've done it twice on this lap already, so back into the lead goes the 51 car. That's two United Autosports cars into the pits together. Felipe Albuquerque in the 22 and the 23 of Alex Lynn, both in together. We were talking about the first hour just a moment ago, Charlie. Isn't it fantastic that we've had all that carnage and melee in the first 45 minutes? There's not a single retirement yet.
I know, we were just saying, weren't we? I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was sure there would have been one or two people drop out, but yeah, after all the trips to the gravel, trips to the barriers, cars crashing into each other, no retirement. So yeah, let's hope it stays that way throughout the rest of the race.
Absolutely. And Chris, the car at the back of the field is René Binder in the LMP2 car.
Yeah.
That's only 4 laps off the lead.
Yes, I think it probably is too much for him to catch up, but yeah, it's not that far back. When you, as you said, you think of the carnage that we've had all over the place in those opening laps, as we see the number 7 car making its third pit stop.
Yeah, I did have some interesting information about the 7 car that came through. In that second stop that they made, they stopped early. They had apparently had a slow puncture on the right rear.
Oh.
So I got that message from Tom Gaymore through Toyota, and they messaged him to say that they'd had a slow puncture which caused an early stop. So interesting one to keep an eye on, whether it was just a one-off thing or they have some tyre issues.
There you go. So our beloved colleague and comrade Tom Gaymore is still very much with us in spirit. He's still giving us messages. Thanks, Tom. Hope you're recovering well. We miss you. We really do miss you. Another interesting piece that I got through earlier on in the race. Apparently, Tommy Milner is reported during the first couple of laps of the race when we were under the full course caution, essentially, when we were under formation lap conditions. He was apparently hit from behind by one of the Ferraris, leaving the grid. So we didn't see if there was any damage, and Antonio Garcia says he couldn't see anything obvious from back in the queue. But thanks to Ryan Smith at Corvette for letting us know about that one. But yeah, Tommy Milner apparently was hit by a Ferrari leaving the grid.
It's easy, you know, it sounds ridiculous, but it's not that hard. It's quite easy to do, because suddenly everyone backs up on that formation lap. You're maybe checking the dials or looking at something, and then everyone's slowed down in front of you. It's like being in a queue on the motorway. So yeah, obviously not ideal before the start of the race, and they're lucky to get away with it.
Just a friendly kiss, that's all.
Oh yeah.
Just a little love tap. What's that thing in Days of Thunder? Rubbins Racing. I don't think that applies at Le Mans somehow. Now, what are we watching here? This is the Toyota being driven into.
That's a large contact.
Okay.
We're checking pressures. Everything looks good at the moment.
Once again, Sebastian Buemi's already been driven into once in this race. He didn't need to be driven into a second time.
He's on it though, isn't he? I mean, he's pushing for every last piece of circuit, taking those risks through the traffic. And we're discussing earlier with Brabs that, you know, he's going to take more risk than Conway and go for the moves maybe that Conway wouldn't at this stage. And obviously that's not really paid off for him.
But that LMP2 should have had blue flags.
Yeah.
Should have been well aware that Buemi was there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, that was the 39 car, I think, that drove into the side there. So that was the SO24 Dirod by Graf with Arnold Robin at the wheel. So he's just gone straight into the side of Sebastian Buemi. Sebastian must be thinking, have I just got a bullseye on the side of my car or something? I'm just being driven into.
If there is one place to get hit though when you are making contact, it is direct side by side.
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
had to pick one, it would be direct side by side, because you can just about get away with it.
Certainly better than the angle that was given to him on the first lap. He was very, very fortunate that didn't bend the suspension arm, or anything could have happened at the back there.
It needs to be the number.
Again, Buemi just showcasing his red mist. I love it when Buemi's fired up in a racing car. It doesn't matter what car you give him. When he gets the red mist down, do not stand in his way. Let's listen.
Tyres okay, and you are P1, yep. It's all good, Seb. It's all good, so let's calm down. We'll check the car when you come past. All fine, safety looks good.
Count to 10.
Yeah, calm down, mate. Calm down. Don't throw your toys out the pram. He's still leading the 24.
So what he's doing there is going close to the pit wall. There'll be a Toyota mechanic over the pit wall to try and look to see if there's any damage.
Yep. Well, there you go. Sebastian Buemi, always a little bit fiery, always a little bit emotional. I can remember just how enraged he was when he got driven into by Lucas Di Grassi in Formula E, even though he won the championship. I remember in the media room afterwards, he was still enraged. You know, you've just become the champion. Forget about it. It's ancient history. But no, he takes these things to heart. He's a very emotional chap, this Sebastian Buemi.
He's adrenaline, isn't it, Jake? I think that's it. When you know when the red mist descends, it is hard to snap out of it. Yeah.
Going back to that incident with the LMP2 car, though, our colleague Tom was saying the other night that a lot of the teams with AM drivers now have spotters to tell the AM drivers when they're about to be overtaken.
Like NASCAR?
Yeah. Like they do in America with NASCAR and with, you know, single-seater champ car.
Nothing wrong with gainful employment.
No, but... obviously, it didn't work in that.
No. You must have been looking at the timing screen at that moment.
Yes.
That's always my excuse. You missed something, Jake. Oh, I was looking at the timing screen. It's the greatest excuse in history as you're a commentator. Ferraris 1 and 2, Chris, at a very interesting point in the race, but also a very interesting moment for the Ferrari board of directors, because obviously they're looking at the potential for going hypercar, either in LMDH or the hypercar. And this is a big moment for them.
Yes, it is. And we saw their chairman start the race. It will be lovely to have Ferrari back to go hypercar. Ferrari would not want, they've chosen to go hypercar. And they're coming in 23. So we've got a year and a half to wait to see them. And of course, the team is going to be run by AF Course. And a lot of the drivers here are presumably hoping they will be behind the wheel of one of those two hypercar Ferraris.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's always... I'm fairly sure Ferrari still have Kimi Raikkonen's phone number when he finally packs in Formula One. There's an opportunity for him to have a go.
There's also a gentleman called Mr. Rossi.
Yes, there is.
Who's just retired from, about to retire from motorbike racing.
He's done a bit of four-wheel racing already, hasn't he, Mr. Rossi?
And he says he wants to go into GT racing, and he's always had an ambition to come to somewhere called Le Mans in France.
To the second off the pace of Schumacher at that point, so goodness knows. This is Felipe Fraga leading in the GTE AM category, and the Aston pushing it very hard indeed. In fact, what a day they are actually turning out to be having in the GTE AM, because despite the fact that there is no works entry for Aston Martin, they are currently running first and second. Quick break, and Aston Martin's trials and tribulations out in the lead of GTE AM will continue.
This program is brought to you by Goodyear, racing-inspired tires.
Change
than the stores and e-tailers worked harder than ever before. Because they had to keep up with the clicks. No time for boredom.
And never miss the action with Apple TV Plus. And never miss a movie with Apple Arcade. Because it's all on the UK's best network. Get the full works plan on EE.
Energy prices are rising. Switch now to avoid paying more than you should. You switch. It's probably time you switch.
You have the power to take your business into the future.
Like a bigger sofa?
West. Tomorrow begins today.
Why do I use Alpecin caffeine shampoo? Because it works for me.
Because it works for me.
Because it works for me. Why do I use Alpecin caffeine shampoo? Because it works for me.
Alpecin caffeine shampoo. Fight for your hair.
Some days demand strength. Some days demand John West on the go. Eat strong, go strong.
It just goes to show how hard these drivers are pushing to extract the most out of the cars.
Gentlemen, maybe we should explain to our viewers, I know many of them will know exactly what LMP2 is and about the cars, but maybe we should just take ourselves through it again. When LMP2 was brought in a few years ago, 4 manufacturers were allowed to make chassis, but at the moment, it's only Orica chassis that we see here, and all the engines come from Gibson.
Yep.
And that engine has been such a success. It's 4.2 litres. It was giving 600 horsepower, brake horsepower, but that's now been brought down because they were going a bit too quickly, quite frankly. And of course, all the tyres are Goodyear. So that's why it's such a competitive formula, and the cost is limited. The chassis is limited, I think, to 450,000 euros.
Yep.
And there's a single aero package, so people can't play around. They have to have the spec equipment, and the cost is limited, and that's why it has been just such a successful formula.
Indeed it has, and it really comes down to essentially the driving styles that you put behind the wheel, the lap time pace of the third driver, or the AM driver if you like, because that really does make a big difference. Juan Pablo Montoya was talking about this to motorsport.com earlier in the week. And fascinating to hear his comments. A race can be won or lost in LMP2 based on who your bronze driver is. And that's a really interesting
in the
point.
Pro-Am category, yeah, definitely.
So you've got that factor, but then you've also obviously got the fact that with it being so close, and with
And that is an extremely good question. That is what is holding back the whole thing about GT3 at the moment. The ACO only announced yesterday that it will be using the GT3 platform. Now, what does that mean? The GT3 platform can be all sorts of things. And the other question is it going to be pro drivers, Pro-Am, or just Am? Now, the ACO would like it to be Am, only amateur drivers, but Corvette would like a pro.
Yes, of course.
Thing. So that's one of the things that was holding up a full-scale announcement yesterday, because obviously everyone wants the Corvettes to be at Le Mans, and Corvette want to be at Le Mans, but there is this tricky question to solve over whether Pro and Am.
Yeah.
I think Corvette are going to have to bring out a GT3 car anyway, because IMSA in America are going GT3 next year.
Yeah, they're adopting it too.
They are indeed, yeah.
So there will be a Corvette GT3. that is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But it's this question of drivers which is sticking with Corvette at the moment, as we see one of the Toyotas making for the pits.
I think that's the 8. I'm fairly sure that's the 8 car coming in. So that is the race leader, Sebastian Buemi, coming into the pit lane. This midfield, well, this gaggle of cars in LMP2, Lynn in the United Autosports, Kubica and Freins in the WRTs, and the second United of Felipe Albuquerque. This is a fabulous battle for 5th position. As into the pits and stops comes the Toyota number 8, and I have a feeling, are they going for a driver change?
He's doing something in the cockpit, but I don't think he's changing.
No, it's not a driver change, is it? No, he's staying in.
Just a quick drinks bottle change, I think, on the for the driver helper on the right-hand side, and triple stint.
Wow, that's Buemi.
Well, as we said, he's wound up, and he's all for it.
Would you ask him to get out of the car at the moment when he's enjoying the rhythm?
That's the question, isn't it? You know, they'll be on the radio saying, "Can you keep going? Can you keep going?" And if he's feeling it, then he's just going to say, "Yep, keep me in, keep me in."
Exactly. So. There's the Glickenhaus going back out. That is 709. That's Romain Dumas in the car. Driver change. Team to watch, really, in the fight for victory, because they genuinely do look like they've got pace over the long stints, and they look like they have done, Chris, the magic dozen laps that was needed earlier on in the stints, so they could play the long game here.
they were stuck with an LMP2 fuel capacity of 75 litres, and that has hindered them in the 3 races today. But the team would not confirm yesterday whether they'd been able to. The car was going to have to do 1 lap less than the Toyotas between pit stops, but it appears that it's actually on the same pace and may even be able to do 1 lap further, which would give them a big advantage over 24 hours.
Certainly
when
would.
They're stopping every 45 to 50 minutes.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Certainly would. I noticed actually when we were watching the cars going through there, at the Dunlop chicane and the S's, I saw spots of rain on the camera lens.
Oh no.
Here we go again.
Oh, yeah, here we go again.
I really hope it's not, because we're really settling into a nice rhythm and we've got some juicy battles going on without rain. But these WRT cars are still working together. I think they're trying to do the old karting technique. They're just trying to work each other through and try and get closer.
I mean, if you can benefit each other from the tow, then you can really benefit from having that slipstream. Does look like the 7 Toyota might be able to stretch this stint a little bit longer than before.
Yep.
I mean, the 8 stopped earlier now, and the 8 was stopping before. So I'd expect Conway in pretty soon, probably this lap.
But Jake, I think you were right. I've just had a quick look at the weather forecast.
Oh dear.
And yes, they are forecasting rain.
Uh-oh, that's not good.
For the next hour.
We've had enough flotsam and jetsam as it is in the first 45 minutes. Okay, batten down the hatches, get yourself a good vantage point, get a good seat, but it looks like you're only going to need the edge of it for the next hour or so. Here comes the charge from Felipe Albuquerque, who is right in behind Robert Kubica's WRT. Is he going to go for the slingshot move up into the Dunlop chicane? You don't want to take that big a gamble from that far back, do you?
No, it's a tough braking zone. It's a much tighter corner than you think as well. You do really have to be almost alongside. That is rain.
There's definitely rain. That's not a suggestion. That's raindrops at the Dunlop chicane and into the S's.
Have a look at the first sector times to see if they're
dropping off the pace. Yeah, good point.
Still pretty good. Still mid 33 in the first sector. So
yeah, they haven't got their wipers on yet, have they?
No, and this is the kind of circuit, Chris, you know, over the years, we've talked about this, it's very much the case that at Le Mans, you can have rain on one side of the circuit and bone dry on the other.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. It's one of the nightmares of this race, or one of the things that you absolutely love about it. There are so many variables of things like, exactly, having rain on one part and not another.
As a driver in that scenario, it's incredibly difficult to make that call, and you just need to try and stay, I know it's hard, but try and stay relaxed as you can, not rush any decisions. You know, if it does start to sprinkle, don't rush to put on wets, let the weather play out a little bit, just so you're dead certain that you don't, you know, accidentally go on a set of wets and have to come straight back off them again in 3 laps time if it dries out.
So we've had some interesting moments already through this race. A couple of drivers getting themselves ready to go at United Autosports. This battle, though, is obviously a very key element to try and get right, Charlie. And you've been there in the midst of a battle, but the strategy that you've got to adopt does actually take the battle you're racing in on track into effect. You can actually delay, you may need to delay the strategy a lap or two before you go for the move. Up on the inside, though, Albuquerque is going to do Kubica on the inside line here. Nicely done. Perfect overtake, perfect execution of the braking into Mulsanne, and that's nicely handled. But to come back to what we were trying to bring the point, you know, when you're in the midst of a battle with another driver, you may need to delay that strategy call for a lap or two, depending on who you're racing against.
It's the hardest part, you know, it's being able to make those calls in the heat of battle, and that's what separates the best drivers from normal drivers. So yeah, I think you still got to have that part of your mental capacity to think about the strategy in a longer game, even when you are battling other drivers. So yeah, you can't really afford to even delay your strategy, to be honest. You need to stick to the game plan, and the teams all know what the game plan is before they start. Obviously the wet weather will throw a little bit of a spanner in the works, but as long as you know that you're stopping on this lap, you have to stick to it.
Our friends at Radio Le Mans, you always used to say this is playing chess at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah. The greatest quote I think you're ever going to get from those guys, and it's so true, and it never stops being true. out of Mulsanne, and then that feeling when you come off the turn, having made that overtaking move on the run to Indianapolis, that will feel spectacular in the cockpit. I pulled off that move, and that was a good one.
Yeah, it was tight on the way in there, wasn't it? And I think he just, Kubica missed the apex slightly as well, so didn't manage to get the exit to try and get back onto Albuquerque up the next straight. So as a driver, when you look in your mirror and you've done an overtake and the person you've just overtaken has dropped off 3 or 4 lengths, you know you can just get your head down and push for the next position.
So the battle continues here. Light rain is coming onto the circuit here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. Could spice things up a bit. Not that it didn't need it, but for the next hour or so, we could have some very interesting times.
Rain expected.
This program is brought to you by Goodyear, racing-inspired tires.
Our world is changing. New challenges and opportunities have fast-tracked the need to do things differently. The FIA is committed to having a positive impact on society, on all our lives, through health and safety, environment, diversity and inclusion, and community development. Make the same commitment. We are all purpose-driven.
Check this out.
It hasn't been such a long time since people first started shopping online, and it was easy to keep up with the clicks. Little by little by little by more, the clicks added up to be more than the stores, and e-tailers worked harder than ever before because they had to keep up with the clicks. No time for borders, got to stay in control, to stay in the flow and continue to grow. But we'll help you keep up with the clicks.
Change is all around us, shaped by technology and human ingenuity. We can make it work for you and your business.
Some days demand strength. Some days demand John West Easy Peel fridge pots. Eat strong, go strong.
Why do I use Alpecin caffeine shampoo? Because it works for me.
Because it works for me.
Because it works for me. Why do I use Alpecin caffeine shampoo? Because it works for me.
Alpecin caffeine shampoo. Fight for your hair.
If you think this is bonkers, some people sell their car without getting a free quote in under 60 seconds at WeBuyAnyCar.com. I mean, why would you do that? You've got nothing to lose. To find out how much your car's worth in 60 seconds, enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
The fans return to the Hungaroring to cheer on the local hero and the scintillating racing. WTCR Race of Hungary, live tomorrow on Discovery+.
Live the rush of the 24 hours of Le Mans with Total Energies.
The rain is tumbling down here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. There it is, you can see it for yourself. The rain is coming down and cars are starting to fall off the road. We just had an incident between Satoshi Hoshino and Andrew Harianto. The D-Station Racing Aston and the Absolute Porsche, they tagged into each other. Coming up to the corner, we're just approaching Tête Rouge. There is the rain falling on the windscreen, Chris. This is nightmare time.
And we've got a yellow flag as well, so watch out, yes. But it's only on that one sector of the circuit, yeah, because we can see that they're going down the Mulsanne, which is heading south, and it seems to be clearing up, and the rain is getting less, so it is only on one small sector of the track.
Well, it's starting to look like more than one sector now. That's definitely spreading down the Mulsanne now, as we watch the 64 car Battling away there, that's the Corvette. Battling away behind him is the 91 Richard Leitz in the Porsche, chasing down Tommy Milner. But it's now definitely... No, but we'll get to this point, and it looks like the rain isn't there yet. Look, he's actually switched the wipers off, Richard Leitz.
It's literally half and half, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, it's halfway around the circuit dry, halfway around the circuit wet. You're absolutely right.
Just what we were talking about 10 minutes ago.
Yep, good old Le Mans.
Yeah.
Good old Circuit de la Sarthe.
Nightmare situation.
Oh, as a driver, it's pretty awful.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just,
you've been there before, Charlie.
Yeah,
you've done this before.
Luckily
When
it was dry the whole time. I've done the Nürburgring 24 in that situation, and you just have to try and look at the weather in half an hour's time if you can get an accurate description of what that's going to be, and think there's no point of coming in if I can just tiptoe around, keep it on the island, and then hope it dries back up again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that is the Fillier Sauce.
On the exit, exit turn 1, turn 2.
That's unfortunate. That's Aoki at the wheels, so the driver can't get out of that. So obviously, it's going to be an interesting one to recover. Hopefully, they'll be able to get that back out again. Where were they running at that point, actually? Because they've had a very solid start to their Le Mans 24 Hours. They are not at the back of the grid by a long shot. They've actually been very, very competitive. They're in 43rd up to this moment. Takuma Aoki having taken over at the start of the race. So the special garage car, as it is, the SRT 41, Takuma Aoki now getting a recovery, but it's been a very competitive race for them so far, Chris, when you consider that 2 of those guys are quadriplegics.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. You see them, pictures in practice of them. Whoa.
Good catch, Tommy. Good catch. And the Porsche going off in sympathy, and that's when the car went off.
And there's one of the United cars following them as well.
Just that instant loss of tyre temperature, isn't it? It's just like driving onto an ice rink.
Yep, here we go. Multiple incidents coming onto the screen now. Whoops, there goes the leading Ferrari. Let's watch this again. There goes the LMP2 car. Whoops.
Actually, it was a fairly slow speed accident, so hopefully he won't have done much damage to it.
No, it's more the fact that the car was beached in the gravel more than anything else, so it needed to be recovered. Look, they're all coming in. Now, are they all going to change tyres, or are they just going to take this opportunity to get their stops out of the way? This is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, maybe they're taking advantage of that slow zone in Sector 1.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't say it's wet enough to put wets on.
Well, the thing is, it's wet enough in one part of the circuit, but it's definitely not wet enough in the other.
Yes, but Charlie, you're right. They're taking advantage of the of that slow zone to make a stop while everyone's slowed down.
Yeah.
The second Porsche there is having a problem because there's no room in the pits.
No, there isn't. It's a very good point, because it's all very tight knit over there. So that's Mike Conway in the pits, Toyota number 7. Obviously, they were a minute 25 in front of Buemi at that point.
It's a full service as well, I think. This is driver change.
And Slick's back on.
Absolutely.
Now, what happens if they go out onto the circuit? It rains a little bit more at turn 1. Oh, well, they've got the slow zone, so that shouldn't cause an issue.
Yeah, just it's hard when the tyres have been in the oven. They've been in the oven for the last hour, and straight out onto a wet surface, slowly as well. So there'll be quite a large temperature drop off before he can actually push. So we have to bear that in mind.
So what we could see essentially is what we saw with the Alpine in the first hour, where they got the throttle and it just swapped ends.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit harder for the Toyota to do that with the 4-wheel drive, but yeah.
if it's ever going to happen, it's going to happen at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not impossible. We saw a couple of times this week, Chris, the Toyotas losing it.
Yes, they've not been trouble-free. And of course, they aren't able to use the 4-wheel drive under 200 kilometers an hour, 120 miles an hour approximately. So the slow corners, it ain't much help.
I think the slow zone has just been removed as well, so they've timed that to perfection.
Yeah, that couldn't have been better. Couldn't have been better, really. It's an interesting situation here as the pit stops are still ongoing. That's Felipe Fraga out. Is that Dylan Pereira in the car now, or is that Ben Keating? Couldn't quite make out.
Couldn't see.
Yeah, couldn't see the difference there. In is the Aston Martin. Number 98, they're having a very solid race in GTE AM, the Astons. They were first and second when they came in. And they are dropping obviously to 4th and 5th, still ultra competitive. And it's very, very tight as the competitors continue to battle away. There is the Corvettes, which I have to say, I am utterly, utterly impressed with their performance so far. They have come straight out of the blocks on the back foot. Everyone was talking about Porsche, Ferrari. Porsche, Ferrari. In the first hour, Corvette were 1 and 2. Fair play.
Absolutely fair play.
They did get a bit of a break overnight, though. They got a 7-kilo reduction in weight, which, of course, would be a big help. As our colleague David Bradford was saying, they're very good at playing the balance of performance game.
Yeah, I mean, as engineers, Charlie, that is one of the biggest things you're dealing with in the run-up to the Le Mans 24 Hours. You want to make sure that when you start that car up at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, you are not going to be compromised in any way.
No, and I think Corvette have obviously played their cards pretty well. To be honest, I mean, the GTE Pro Grid isn't huge, so not qualifying at the front isn't the end of the world when you, if it means that you get a BOP break for the race. So, yeah, they seem to have played it pretty well. The 7 kilos won't make a huge difference. It might just make a little bit of difference to the agility of the car in the corners. Direction change might be a little bit faster. Depends where the weight comes out of as well. I'm not sure in this category if you can remove the weight from the nose. You can put the weight where you want it. If they can take it away from the nose or take it away from the middle, you could actually change the balance of the car with the weight.
They did also lose 1 litre of fuel, so that'll take away slightly from the weight reduction.
Yeah.
So down the straight, we've got the car coming towards us is the Racing Team Eurasia India car. Treble 7 car has a drive-through penalty for speeding in the slow zone. That is very unfortunate. That's Satoshi Hoshino, who's already been in the wars with Andrew Haryanto. Just to come back to the Racing Team Eurasia India, it's been a bit of a trying time for that car, because obviously that was meant to be a full Indian capacity project, and unfortunately COVID really has taken a bit of a hammer blow to that project. But I know that the boys out in India, Mohit Tungakar, Narayan Karthikeyan, a lot of the big players behind the scenes in that team, they're obviously wanting to make sure that in 2023 it will be a full India operation. This is the time really for the Indian motorsport projects. They're really starting to get on. They only announced last week that there's going to be a Formula Regional in India, as well as F4. Oh dear, that's the Jota.
That's the lead car.
That is the lead car in LMP2. That is Anthony Davidson, and he's gone straight off. And we've also got the Absolute Porsche.
They come together, do you think?
That would be very unfortunate. But for Jota, who are leading the way, Anthony Davidson, and he's got his head in his hands there. Let's have a look and see what happened. Absolute Porsche loses it, and Anthony Davidson goes with him. They didn't hit each other. They both just lost it on the way up to the Dunlop chicane. That's through the Dunlop curve.
I wonder if there was a sudden shower there or something.
That was a really, he entered the picture sideways.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was a high speed. Lucky not to hit anything, but he's far off in the gravel there.
He could lose a lap in that easily.
Yeah, I think so.
Devastating for Anthony Davidson and the Jota crew. They've been absolutely on it all race long. They almost took the overall lead, don't forget, in that first hour. What a shame.
I think he's just lucky, to be honest. The car's still in one piece after that.
Yeah.
You don't often leave the track at probably near 180 miles an hour, and the car still resembles what it looked like before.
Yeah, well, that's a slow zone. Okay, so they've managed to get the 84 car, the Frederic Saucey-Lafilier, back into the pit lane, so they're obviously going to do. Now you've got to remember with these guys, Chris, they actually do their driver changes in the garage, so they won't do them out in the pits. They do their driver changes in the garage. They'll probably do most of their service in it as well.
Yeah, exactly, because you couldn't have drivers in a wheelchair in the pit lane. It would be far too dangerous. So that car has to go into the garage to change drivers. But of course, there's a benefit, because while they're there, any number of mechanics can work on the car, whereas in the pit lane, it's only 4 mechanics.
That's a very good point. Yeah, very true.
So they can throw everything at it and hopefully get it back out as quickly as possible.
So we've got yellow flag at turn 1. The leading car in LMP2 the Jota Sport machine in the hands of Anthony Davidson has dropped it, we think because of bad conditions out there, which means that the leading car is the WRT of Robert Kubica on their Le Mans debut. They've got a great chance of making this come together. Joop van Uyten in the Racing Team Netherlands car is leading in Pro-Am in the LMP2 category as well, currently chasing down Franco Colapinto in the G-Drive machine. And that is the battle. They are there together on the road. So not much to choose between these two cars at all. And it's definitely going to make for a fascinating battle because the Pro-Am leaders of LMP2 are now looking to move up into second overall. The Inter-Europol car of Ringo van der Zande is currently running in 4th place. The other Jota, Tom Blomqvist, is in P5 now. And James Allen is in the Panis Racing machine in P6 that was running up in the top 3 with Will Stevens earlier on. Then it's the United Autosport pair, Wayne Boyd and Philip Hansen in the cars at the moment. Loic Duval in the Real Team Racing car, P9. P10 is the WRT of Charles Milesi. And then in 11th place, the Richard Mille Racing Team of Bajdsky Visser. But the leader in the Jota Sport, Anthony Davidson, is in the gravel. And it's a terrible, terrible turn of events for them in the 3rd hour. We're going to take a short pause as we go to a slow zone. But it's not good news for Jota.
This program is brought to you by Goodyear, racing-inspired tires.
Some seconds are worth more than others. For instance, take this seat, take this wheel, take this start. Don't take your eye off the curve. Who knows what lies ahead? Take this way in and this way out. Take every opening, every chance. Overtake this one, these two. Take pleasure in the thrill. Take a second. Relax. There are 86,400 for the taking.
Most of us won't break a world record, but feel great after breaking a sweat. Most of us are dreamers that need more sleep. We'll eat healthier, starting from tomorrow. We're competitive, mostly with ourselves. Most of us would like to know our bodies better, so we can be at our best. Galaxy Watch 4 Series.
As a sidekick to a hero, it's important I'm ready for the unexpected. Like when a villain makes an impromptu visit and you're clean out of throwing stars. Which is why I bought these with my credit card. How long have you been there?
Not long.
It lets me be flexible with my cash, plus I get up to 56 days interest-free if I pay in full and on time.
You are going to pay for this.
Yeah, but not for up to 56 days we won't. Boom! To find out more, search Barclaycard Sidekicks.
Dandruff says don't. Don't wear black. Don't get close. Don't stand out. Don't be yourself. There are no more don'ts with Head & Shoulders. Get up to 72 hours dandruff protection. Head & Shoulders, rule your head.
This world is full of little confusions. Get what you bargained for with Confused.com rewards.
Why do I use Alpecin caffeine shampoo? Because it works for me.
Because it works for me.
Because it works for me. Why do I use Alpecin caffeine shampoo? Because it works for me.
Alpecin caffeine shampoo. Fight for your hair.
Lego Technic sponsors 24-hour Le Mans on Eurosport.
Great action going on for the lead now in LMP2 as a result of that off for the Jota Sport car of Anthony Davidson. These are the two cars battling for the lead in LMP2, and there is not much to choose between them at all. Franco Colapinto in the G-Drive versus Joop van Uyten in the Racing Team Nederland machine, and that really has thrown the cat amongst the pigeons and shaken things up. We were talking about this a little bit of a moment during the break there, Charlie. These yellow zones really have shaken up this LMP2 field.
Yeah, it's just how you decide to use them. If you can get a pit stop during a yellow zone, you can gain a huge amount of time. And especially that first one, just as they were all coming out of the pits, the slow zone ended. So effectively they had not a free pit stop, but gained a significant amount of ground in the pit stop.
So Miroslav Konopka gets out of the way in the ARC Bratislava car. Ferrari in the pits. This is the leading car, the 51 of Alessandro Piguidi. So he'll take over from Dan. He'll continue on, with the two Ferraris now leading. This battle in GTE Pro, Chris, is fascinating. Ferrari seem to have all the aces up their sleeve at the moment, and it's really Earl Bamber that's taking the fight to them at the moment in the WeatherTech Porsche.
Yes, it's amazing that the factory Porsches really don't seem to, at the moment, be doing it. And the Ferraris were moaning a bit earlier in the week because they got hit with a balance and performance reduction. So they're doing incredibly well. If they'd been slowed down, where would they have been if they hadn't been slowed down a bit?
Well,
they'd have been right up the road.
They certainly would, wouldn't they? Buemi's just gone purple in the first sector, so I think the rain that was there at the first sector is now gone. I don't see any windscreen wipers going ablaze at the moment, so it's obviously the pace has returned to that first sector. Mayo in the Glickenhaus has done a personal best in the first sector. Av Boyd and Hansen aboard the United Autosports cars. And there is the 52 Ferrari that currently leads the way from the WeatherTech Porsche, and the sister Ferrari in third position in the A, of course. An interesting battle. Outlaw asks, why, when doing driver changes, do some drivers help, and in others, the pit crew do it? It's an interesting one, Charlie.
It's actually personal preference sometimes. I mean, you are allowed a driver helper to assist you, usually through the passenger side door. But in other cases, the drivers choose to help the driver. I mean, it's personal preference for me. I mean, I've never really had a problem doing my own belts.
Maybe I said it, and then we survive, okay? Exactly. Please switch off the aircon. It's super warm in the car. The vents are closed. Okay, copy. Leave it.
Sounds like Joe Van Oyter is actually having a problem with the cockpit getting too warm.
He's telling him to switch off the aircon. They have to run to a certain temperature, I think. That's regulated by the ACO. So I think if they do get too hot, they have to put the aircon on. Obviously, you're maybe struggling a little bit. It's not a nice position to be in. I've been there when you're too hot in the car, lack of airflow. It's a pretty horrible feeling. So the only thing is with the aircon, it does sap a little bit of power. So maybe that's why the team are asking him to switch it off, in order to could cost 5 or 6 horsepower, which is enough around Le Mans when you rely so heavily on top speed.
Kobayashi, Buemi, Negrão, the top 3 drivers in the race at the moment. Toyota 1 and 2 and the Alpine in third position. It's still very early days, and we are watching the battle for the victory in LMP2 between the leading Pro car and the leading Pro-Am car. G-Drive Racing versus Racing Team Nederland. Franco Colapinto versus Job Van Oyter. This is a really thrilling battle. Third place now as a result of the last pit stop phase during the yellow zone. These mechanics getting some sleep, and they need to when they can, because you've got to remember, we talked about this already, Chris, this is not a 24-hour race for these guys. This is a 40-hour race for these guys, all in all.
Yeah, they've been up on Wednesday night and Thursday nights till late, and a lot of them have had preparation work to do after that, and yesterday, so it's a long old week, this one. So, and I see that poor old Ann Davison has now dropped to 24th place. Oh. What a pity.
Yeah.
All the work they've done.
And to be fair, that's 19th in class. So that's almost right down to dead last. He is still running, so they have managed to get the car going again. Can you believe all the drama that we've had in this race, and we still haven't had a single DNF yet? Very impressive work from the teams. It's been fantastic to watch how the engineers have been keeping these cars afloat. The last car in the race, the GR Racing Porsche of Michael Wainwright, that car is only 8 laps off the lead. and we're in the end of the third hour, so that is very impressive stuff. Everybody's still going. SRO, Stefan Rotel, just coming over for a cheeky gander. Everyone's taking to social media, it seems, when they're not working on their cars. Even the mechanics are doing it. Look, Mum, I'm on telly. This battle for ninth position really is turning into something special. Into Europol versus WRT 31. Renger van der Zande versus Charles Malaysi. And they've actually got a Glickenhaus on their tail now, so things could get very interesting as Charles Malaysi really is pushing Renger van der Zande. Van der Zande's actually struggling for grip by the look of it. Hasn't quite been able to nail the Dunlop chicane, and as they come through the S's, Charlie, he's got to be very careful where he places the car.
And Renger van der Zande is no mean driver. He's had a very good career in the States. So
indeed he has.
You know.
Yeah, he's
right.
Cadillac DPI, correct?
Yeah.
So
he is Cadillac DPI, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think he's obviously got a vast experience in endurance racing, so you know, he's going to know where to place the car to defend the position. Obviously, the first sector could still be a little bit damp offline, so it's just about keeping it safe, really. I mean, it is a long race. We're still only 3 hours in, so yeah, he's going to be pushing his way through the field.
He uses the Corvette to good effect there to get through on the inside line and lap the number 63 car, and that gives them a little bit of a breathing space. And now they're going past the JMW Ferrari, which has the very talented Jody Fannin in the car, making his Le Mans 24-hour debut this weekend, and he is one of many great talents to be onto this grid for the first time, and it's really interesting to see what they're doing. It's Thomas Neubauer who's at the wheel of that car at the moment, but Jody Fannin will get the chance to take the wheel a little bit later on. And watch out for him, because you raced against him, Charlie, in the good old days. Jody Fannin is a lightning bolt when he gets the chance.
Yeah, absolutely. He was just in Ginetta Juniors when I started, so yeah, he's always been quick. I've known him through my karting career. We lived quite locally to each other, so it's great to see him getting a shot at Le Mans. He's been doing quite a lot in GT3 at the Nürburgring over the past few seasons, so built a really good endurance racing CV, so it's nice to see him getting a shot here.
The Glickenhaus has come forward, Chris.
Well, I was just going to comment on that. Glickenhaus is making a bit of a meal of getting past these two LMP2s. It hasn't gone straight past. This is, of course, the fastest part of the circuit on the run-up from Mulsanne to Indianapolis. Everyone thinks, or most people think, that the Mulsanne straight is the fastest part. It's not. This is the fastest part. And also, it's much narrower here than the Mulsanne straight.
So another interesting comment has come in. Do message us through the course of the race, folks. If you're on Twitter, hashtag EurosportLM24. More than happy to take your comments and your questions. Connor Holloway has come up with a fabulous, inspired observation. BMW, Audi and Mercedes leaving Formula E this year. Now talk of 5 manufacturers interested in the hydrogen class at Le Mans for 2024. Coincidence or the future? Chris, what do you reckon?
Oh, that's well done.
Well spotted by Connor Holloway.
Yeah, absolutely well done, Connor. Very interesting. And Mark Cole and I, when we're on overnight, we will be discussing hydrogen. The ACO are leading motorsport into the hydrogen era, and there was going to be a hydrogen class at Le Mans in 2024, but because of COVID, they announced yesterday that they're putting it back by a year. But they also announced that they have 8 manufacturers in a working group working on hydrogen, the hydrogen regulations, and they are expecting that 3 manufacturers will have hydrogen cars on the grid, fighting for overall victory in 2025. And I had a phone call with Bernard Mayo, who's the hydrogen manager at the OCO yesterday, and he confirmed that they have manufacturers from Asia, they have manufacturers from Europe, and they have manufacturers from America, all on that working group. This is the future. It's going to be fantastic.
And that's just for the hydrogen working group.
That's the hydrogen manufacturers working group. 8 manufacturers.
Bring it on. I have always said that if the hydrogen fuel cell is going to be the thing that works, it's got to be led by Le Mans, because they're the ones who are going to make it happen worldwide. That is the Richard Millet car getting through on the Cedilar Ferrari. Let's give these girls some credit, because they've been absolutely massive through this race. In the opening phase of the race, they got into the top 10, and you've got W Series race winner Beitske Visser in the car at the moment. The other two drivers, of course, Tatiana Calderon, who was part of the Sauber driver program a couple of seasons ago on the road to Formula One. And you've also got Sophia Fleur. She was turning into one of the most talented young sports car converts after her mammoth accident at the Macau Grand Prix, which went viral a couple of seasons ago. The fact that she's driving a racing car at all is a bit of a miracle. Never mind doing such a good job as she is with the Richard Millet car. But Beitske Visser, this is all about versatility, Charlie. We've seen these 3 very talented racers in single-seaters. They have converted to LMP2, and they're doing a fine job.
Yeah, absolutely. I have just noticed, though, Jake, I think that's the 82 Risi car that we're watching. It has a number 1 on it, which is really rather confusing.
You're absolutely right.
If you look at the front...
I can't believe they've done that. Why have they put a number 1 on it?
It's got a 1 on the... on the front nose, and then an 82 on the side and the top. So
well,
yeah, I mean, who's aboard that?
Right, that's Ryan Cullen.
Cullen, yeah. He just Jarvis has just handed that over, I think, after making.
Oh, dear.
That's an interesting car. That Risi car. Isn't it funny that Risi suddenly is no longer running Ferraris, but he's running a red LMP2 now? Who's coming into hypercar in 2 years' time?
That's not a coincidence, is it, Chris?
The conspiracy theories are good. I do like them.
Oh, I'm not sure that's so much as a conspiracy theory as a massive punch in the gut to anyone who doesn't think they're doing the Ferrari program early in advance.
Yeah. Well, Risi is the Ferrari man in America. So,
this is data gathering, isn't it?
It's a toe in the water.
And they've got 3 very able-bodied drivers there, Ryan Cullen, Oliver Jarvis and Felipe Nasr. If the Ferrari board think they all did a good job, well, guess what, boys? You'll be in a Ferrari before you know it.
And it is going to be great when you've got the hypercars and the LMP and the LMDH cars, the European and the American cars, all racing each other. It's going to be terrific.
It certainly is. I mean, when was the last time Ferrari competed full-time in the senior category at Le Mans?
Ferrari back in the 70s with the 312.
There you go, 70s. So nearly 50 years ago since they last ran a works front-running outfit at the top category. They've obviously been solid in GTs pretty much since the 1960s when they had that magnificent run of 5 in a row. And they've never left Le Mans, but to the hardcore purists, they do kind of need to be there at the front end.
Oh, I mean, Ferrari have such a history at Le Mans. I hate to admit it, but when I first came in 1965, a Ferrari won.
So the battle continues. We're into the 4th hour of the Le Mans 24 Hours 2021. It's not raining, and there's a little bit of pushing to come now from the next stints.
This program is brought to you by Goodyear, racing-inspired tires.
Change is all around us, shaped by technology and human ingenuity. We can make it work for you and your business.
Our world is changing. New challenges and opportunities have fast-tracked the need to do things differently. The FIA is committed to having a positive impact on society, on all our lives, through health and safety, environment, diversity and inclusion, and community development. Make the same commitment. We are all purpose-driven.
This is the moment you discover Spotty Car. And this is the moment when you spot the one. And drive away happy in the knowledge it's manufacturer approved with 12 months warranty and 12 months roadside assistance. And this is the moment you fall in love. Spotty car. Spot it, drive it, love it.
Rise, entrepreneur. Take that first step towards freedom. So long to the old routine. Welcome to your new venture. There's an industry that needs disrupting. Ideas you should be challenging. It takes courage to do what you love. We'll help you begin your journey. As a business like you, dedicated to you, we can take on tomorrow together with a business account you could open today. Entrepreneurs across the UK. Start your business with Tide.
These are my first pair of select specs. £6, great value for money, 5 stars.
Get prescription glasses from just £6 a pair at selectspecs.com.
Why do I use Alpecin caffeine shampoo?
Because it works for me. Because it works for me.
Because it works for me.
Why do I use Alpecin caffeine shampoo? Because it works for me.
Alpecin caffeine shampoo. Fight for your hair.
Energy prices are rising. Switch now to avoid paying more than you should. You switch. It's probably time you switch.
Live the rush of the 24 hours of Le Mans with Total Energies.
The battle for Alpine continuing on as it works its way through the traffic here at the Le Mans 24 Hours 2021. Jake Sanson, Chris Parsons and Charlie Robertson with you up until the end of the 4th hour. Then we'll do another nice commentary rotation once again. Mark Cole and David Brabham will rejoin the fray. It's going to be a very exciting battle for Alpine as Andre Negrão is trying to close down the deficit. For those who are not really seeing the big picture, the gap is obviously at this stage about 1:53 back to Kamui Kobayashi, which is about half a lap or so. But listen, these guys are still very much in the hunt. There is a long, long way to go in this, and they are sticking to their program, Chris. Yep. This is a good chance for Alpine. They really have got an opportunity.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Jake. It's very interesting. The Alpine is a much simpler car than the very complex Toyota hypercars, and they've not exactly been trouble-free in the past 3 races. In fact, at Monza, the last race, they had several problems, didn't they, Charlie? You were commentating that race, and they did not run trouble-free. They did not run trouble-free in practice, in qualifying either. No. So it's all to play for.
Yeah, I mean, at Monza they seem to have to stop and do a systems reset a couple of times in the lead car, and then the car when Brendan Hartley was in had some brake issues by the looks of it. Brake-by-wire issues, so yeah, obviously are quite vulnerable at the front, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out over the race.
Down in pit lane, we're about to hear from Leslie and Tom, who have been anchoring the show and keeping things nice together. There's your race classification as we are now into the 4th hour of the 2021 Le Mans 24 Hour. Fantastic battles so far in all 4 classes, with an awful lot still to come over the course of the race. Leslie and Tom down in the pits. They've been watching and observing how everything has played out, and will give us their predictions on what we can expect to see for the rest of the 24 Hours Le Mans.
And we're now 3 hours into the race with Tom Christensen here. This 89th edition starting in the race car. Tom, we knew we had the feedback on the grid that it was going to be a difficult start. And it was. We had like some crazy first laps.
We saw that first corner, we saw the contact from the Glickenhaus Racing when Olivier Pla unfortunately locked his front wheel, sliding into Sebastian Buemi, unlocking in car 8, completely taken out and causing a scare at Toyota Racing. And he lost plenty of time due to that. So did Olivier Pla. He got a 10-second penalty on top of 1.5 minute loss. Alpine, though, gained a lot of time with where we saw that Nicolas Lepierre getting splendidly away, maybe a bit too confident, as he had this slide and lost at Indianapolis and lost several seconds there as well. So these three cars gave Mike Conway this perfect lead, and we saw how concentrated he was before the start, focusing on having just a start like that, and for them it was pretty spectacular.
LMP2 category also, you're pretty impressed. That's so incredibly competitive today.
It's every day Antonio Felix da Costa, the Portuguese in the Jota car, has done a fantastic job, and it's of course devastating for them to see Anthony Davidson very unlucky, very unfortunate. I need to see more replays of it, as it's literally happened 10 or 12 minutes ago, going up to turn 1 and being sitting there in the gravel, losing plenty of time. Devastating for Jota, the clear favorite, especially after this opening stint from Da Costa. We have seen Robert Kubica doing a good rookie stint, early stint from WRT. Nick de Vries, though, the world champion of Formula E. He's a great little chap, and I love to see him racing, and he's done very well in the number 26 car, which is now gave to Franco Colapinto, and they're doing well. And the same is Guido van der Garde and Job van Uytert in the Racing for Netherlands, and they're leading comfortably the Pro-Am category. So I would say these are the highlights in these two categories at the moment.
Yeah, and I wanted your experience, like a word about these conditions in the start. We knew it was going to be very difficult. How difficult is it to manage inside the car? Because it's the start, you want to put pressure on your opponents, but also it's a marathon, and you don't want to make a mistake.
You don't want to make a mistake, and you saw the visibility when from the onboard camera. It really gives that driver view, which was clearly very difficult. And never mind that these cars have hardly been driven in the wet during testing. It's new cars, especially the hypercars, but also a lot of rookie drivers here. And to start their first Le Mans in the rain, like Kevin Magnussen, it's tough, and they have done well, and being a bit cautious, which has been very clever. The Corvettes in the GT, they did an extraordinary job in the beginning and executing it very well. But obviously these little Ferraris from Italy, they are crawling it all back. It's all open.
The spectacle is just beginning.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Tom. Great to catch your feedback on everything that's going on. We are in the 4th hour. The Le Mans 24 Hours. Sebastian Buemi has brought the Toyota Gazoo racing car into the pits, and after what has been a triple stint, surely it's not him in the car anymore. It's Brendan Hartley. So Brendan Hartley has climbed in, the Kiwi, doing an absolutely stellar job in the world of sports car racing these days. He's going to be looking forward to the future of the hypercar category and whether we might see Toyota going hydrogen in the future or not. He's definitely a safe pair of hands, as into the pits comes the Alpine of Andre Negrão. So there is still obviously just going through the procedures, going through their program at the moment. Good to see the battles really started to shape up. Aubrey and Aberdeen both setting personal best sectors on this lap as they come through. That is Gabriel Aubrey in the PR1 Mathiasen car and Jonathan Aberdeen, who's now in the 32 United Autosports machine. So they're making some good progress out there. Romain Dumas is also in the pits in the Glickenhaus. So obviously everything going tickety-boo at the moment, Chris, for these guys, but obviously there's still a long way to go. You just got to keep your pace and you've got to keep your head.
Yeah, it's great to see that they are being able to match the Toyotas, at least on pit stops. We were worried that they were going to have to stop before the Toyotas, but they seem to be matching, which is really good news. The Toyotas really, they cannot afford to have any problems at all. And as you say, we're only 3 hours in and plenty to go.
Well, where are the Glickenhauses? They are 14th and 15th overall, still looking at 4th and 5th in class. It's interesting because we came into this race, Charlie, aware of the fact after the pace that they'd shown in free practice and qualifying that they were going to be a genuine threat. But they've kind of tripped over themselves a little bit in the first half of the race.
I think it all stemmed from that first hour, that the wet pace wasn't really there for them. They seemed to drop back down the field when the LMP2 cars on their inters really switched on in that second half of the first stint. and haven't really recovered from it. The pace is still slightly quicker than that of the P2s, but not enough really to be making inroads into the top class, into the top field of the hypercars. So they've still got a number of LMP2 cars between them and the lead of the race.
Yes, Jim Glickenhaus admitted that they had done almost no wet running at all.
Yeah.
They did a few laps at Vallelonga, which is a very tight circuit just outside Rome, and that's the only running they've done on wet. So they had very little experience of running on wet on those conditions.
Yeah, and I think it showed, didn't it, really, in that opening hour. So, yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, big shunt for the Aston.
Who's in that?
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That is
a big shunt.
That's Marcos Gomez, and that's gone in very hard. Safety car. No surprises there at all. That is a big impact.
Now, safety car here is at Le Mans is difficult because there are 3 safety cars. They start off a third of the way round, each one a third of the way round the circuit, and they pick up the cars and slow them down. But there are new regulations this year, and if you are in a battle with a car in your same class and a safety car gets in between you, they will be able to wave you by. That's at Indianapolis.
Yeah,
we spotted. Yeah,
we've seen a lot of cars going off on the way through Indianapolis. That's the first big hit we've seen on the approach. Oh, a long way in as well. That gravel trap isn't slowing that car down anywhere near enough.
No.
That's a hefty one for Gomez.
I'd quite like to have seen what happened in the 2 seconds just before we joined that. I don't think there was contact from the Toyota that was getting past it.
I'm not sure if he's out of the car yet. I mean, medical team on the way now. Yeah, probably if you're going to have somewhere to have an off at Le Mans, it's not Indy 1, is it? So I mean,
no.
It's
and the speed that you're carrying, even in a GT car there.
Oh, it's massive. Yeah,
monstrous.
I mean, you're tickling 200 miles an hour at the end of that straight. So
as I said, that is the fastest part of the circuit.
Yeah.
So a few teams taking the opportunity of doing a bit of maintenance work.
Yep, GR Racing certainly doing that. They've actually had some difficulties of late because they've only completed 36 laps, whereas the next car in front of them, the Proton Competition Porsche of Florian Latour, is on lap 45. So they've not had the greatest of runs at GR Racing. They've already carried some problems already. I think that car has just been wheeled out of the garage. It had gone into the garage, I think. So the safety car there has picked up the ARC Bratislava car, the 44 that was driven earlier on by Oliver Webb. That's now Miroslav Konopka in the car. You've got a feel for these guys.
Of course, I think that's going to take some time to extract that car. They've got to make sure the driver's okay, and then they'll have to repair the tyre barrier. So we've got a fairly long interruption now.
Well, there's a possibility. We're hearing that we don't know whether the Toyota might have actually made contact with the Aston to send it off or not. But there was definitely a Toyota going past it at that point. If there was contact from the Toyota, then whether they're lapping the car or not, that could come back to bite the Toyota.
Yep.
We need to see it again, really, from a couple of seconds further back. But obviously, while we're extracting an Aston Martin from a tyre barrier, there is no need to continuously replay an incident. Oh, there's the driver, thank goodness. Oh, well, he's going to be winded, obviously. You can't go into a barrier at nearly 200 miles an hour and not feel it. But thank goodness Marcos Gomez is actually out of the car.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
So obviously the medical team will do that. They have to run through strict protocols and procedures when there's an incident like that, particularly when the safety car's been called. Because you know the severity of an incident, you know the G-forces that you're going to be experiencing in an accident like that, Charlie.
Well, these cars all have a medical ACO medical light in the car. So when they do experience a high impact, the light will be on inside the car. So when the marshals get to it, they know straight away that it's been through a huge impact and the medical team are required for extraction.
Well, we're under safety car conditions at the 24 Hours of Le Mans for the first time. And after a big accident for the LMGTE Aston Martin of Marcos Gomez, we will update you with a little bit more information in a few minutes.
This program is brought to you by Goodyear, racing-inspired tires. Naturally inspiring. Passionately stirring. Your next adventure awaits. Visit Argentina.
The Bennett's British Superbike Championship rockets into Norfolk Superfast Snetterton Circuit on Sunday the 5th of September. Get set for 2 headline races featuring some of the world's best riders, including Josh Brooks, Tommy Bridewell and many more. There's a full programme of national support races too. Adult tickets are just £32 online in advance, and children under 13 go free. Visit snetterton.co.uk to book now.
Vinted is a second-hand app where you can sell what you don't wear anymore.
Hey, it's my turn. And you can make some extra cash. You can do it with men's clothes too. Vinted is perfect for giving a second life to all those things you don't need. It's easy to list your items.
And you don't pay any seller fees.
Sell in just a few steps. Snap, upload and set your price. Over 1 million members are already using Vinted, so you've got a better chance of selling faster. Download the Vinted app today. Don't wear it?
Sell it.
On Disney Plus, get ready for your summer holidays with Luca, Loki, Monsters at Work on Disney Plus.
As a sidekick to a hero, it's important I'm ready for the unexpected. Like when a villain makes an impromptu visit and you're clean out of throwing stars. Which is why I bought these with my credit card. How long have you been there?
Not long.
It lets me be flexible with my cash, plus I get up to 56 days interest-free if I pay in full and on time.
You are going to pay for this.
Yeah, but not for up to 56 days, we won't. Boom! To find out more, search Barclaycard Sidekicks.
Thanks, Dad.
Right.
So I found this one.
Yeah.
With new Vodafone Evo, you have the flexibility to choose your upfront cost. Get flexible contract lengths and flexible upgrades, so you can get the phone you want at the price you choose.
Background.
Right, Dad?
Smoke. Wind machine.
I mean, how could any woman resist?
Get the phone you want at the price you choose. Search Vodafone Evo. Together we can.
Live the rush of the 24 hours of Le Mans with Total Energies.
Back at the Le Mans 24 hours under safety car procedure. There in the pits is the 82 car, the Rizzi Competizione car, Ryan Cullen at the wheel. And they have clearly got some kind of difficulty. They've actually put the car in the garage, Chris.
Yeah,
like
so
a nose change.
It don't look as if they were doing anything else, but there's work going on at the back. Maybe they're just taking this chance to do a few jobs. One interesting thing while you were away that we did see is that the incident of the Aston Martin accident is being investigated by the stewards. Now, yes, Jake, you did say, was there some sort of contact there with a Toyota? It is being investigated.
Right. Well, the thing is, we only saw the sort of the second half of the incident, essentially. We only really saw the car skating across the gravel.
Yes, no doubt the stewards will be looking at any other footage that they can get their hands on to see what actually did happen there. But we have had that confirmed. So interesting. And one or two other teams have been into the pits making, this is one team, the Aurus, the G-Drive Aurus has been in. They've had the engine cover off, working under there. So yes, teams are doing a bit of maintenance while they can.
Yeah, I think if any of the drivers are feeling anything that they might, a vibration or a loss in power or anything, if they can change, the safety car period is the best time to have a look at it. You lose the least time, the race is fairly neutralised. So as you say, Chris, it's doing a little bit of maintenance, and any small jobs that they can get done, they'll do them now.
Now, one thing that's going to be interesting, not at this safety car, but if there were a safety car in the night, a lot reasons that Aston Martin won the class last year was that they managed not to change the brakes of their
after the fact. So we don't really know what caused the car to lose control on the approach to Indianapolis.
I'm not even sure if it was the Toyota that was coming through. It could have been a similarly liveried LMP2 car as well. At the same time, it was very hard to
one
tell.
of the things we definitely have quite a lot of in this
replacement tyres arriving.
Yeah, so they're going to be quick on this. The Orange Army really are quite efficient around Le Mans. A lot of the people on this team, they come from France, they come from further abroad, but they also come from Great Britain, they come from America. They're so dedicated a team of official marshals here, and it's wonderful to see them go into operation. They are an incredible team of men and women around the circuit who keep us safe, and we've said this time and time again, Charlie, they should be the best mates of every driver out there on the circuit, because without them, we're nothing.
Absolutely
now
right.
we've got a car there in trouble.
Yes, we do.
One of the LMP2s, didn't see the number, but it was definitely struggling, and the others were having to pass it. They're not. Hours of Le Mans.
Yeah, huge respect to those guys, really, and as you say, tackle all weathers, to stand there all night. It's it's a great sacrifice that they make, and obviously very passionate about the sport. So yeah, the drivers and the teams owe them a lot.
Yeah, I've done 2 days of marshalling in my entire motorsport career of 10 years. One of them was at a karting event over at PF International. I think it was before a club race. I think they were one man down, and I said, "Can I be of assistance?" Yes, they gave me some flags and put me under the bridge. Of all the places they could have put me on the circuit, they put me there. I definitely saw some action.
In the firing line there.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely saw some action. The second day was actually for a lawnmower roof. 3 o'clock in the morning for a...
Guess where the safety cars are going to come in. Yeah. It makes it difficult for those guys, and the race is
Overtake this one.
When I was young, I wanted to go to space.
Sí, sí, todo bien, pero luego te cuento. Vale, que estoy ligada. Venga, hasta luego.
As I got older, my dream Now that I'm inside, I have a new dream. At Motherland, I feel part of an incredible community at the